Welcome to Unhinged Magi. And this time it is just Edwin, no Dan. Sorry about that, guys. Dan will be hopefully back with us pretty soon. But this is an interview I've been looking to do for a long time and found myself with a little bit of time. So I figured I would reach out to Rich Bourque and see if he was available. Thank goodness he was. And so, Rich, how you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
Doing very well. Very well. Thank you. So Rich, you guys has a YouTube channel. He has a Twitch stream. He has hosted a lot of live play videos for a lot of tournaments. He's a great guy and a member of the old school community and has done a really impressive job with all of like the tech stuff that he does. So if you haven't heard of him yet, I strongly suggest you check out his channel, his Twitch stream and his YouTube. They'll all be linked below in the video. So Rich, you want to tell us a little something about yourself?
Sure. I just an old school Magic player. I've been playing old school Magic for 2 years now, and before that, I was playing mostly modern with a sprinkle of standard.
Mm-hmm.
But I became a little disheartened with competitive Magic.
Yeah.
So I was looking for something different, and lo and behold, old school Magic kind of fell into my lap.
So what was disheartening you specifically about it?
Um, well, part of it is obviously the bans that happen in the formats. It gets really hard to get into a groove
Yeah.
and find a deck that you like when cards get banned,
Yeah.
and then you have to switch things up. And especially in modern, I had played Splinter Twin since almost the beginning of modern as a format.
Mm-hmm.
I switched to Splinter Twin like after the first round of bannings from the format, and then after it got banned, I just never found a deck that I cared about. So I switched up from deck to deck to deck to deck, and just never found anything that I
Yeah.
liked. And then I even tried playing Standard again, which is interesting. It's a money pit. The
Yes, it
reason I play
is.
old school is because I can't afford to play Standard. So,
I have a
um,
whole video I did at the beginning of my first channel, Edwin the Magic Engineer, and the whole topic of the video was I play vintage because I can't afford standard. And like
yeah.
I'm sure you're right on those lines. Like the cards are
Oh,
crazy
right.
expensive, but you don't have to keep spending money, and the money you put in stays.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's just one thing is I was introduced to old school by one of the local shops, but I was welcomed into the community by somebody who's well known in the old school community. It's Drew Epstein,
Oh
and
yeah.
he and I had a lot of conversations about old school and some
Hmm.
things, and one thing is that the turn and burn cards would rotate out of so fast in standard.
Yep.
Like this year alone, they're coming out with what, 6 standalone sets
Yeah.
for tournament playable
Yeah. Rudy
sets.
always calls it the wallet
You know,
fatigue.
right, right. And I mean, it was hard enough when there were 4, but now that there are 6,
Hmm.
this is just a trend. And even if you just
Yeah.
play modern or and not necessarily standard, it's still hard to keep up because of the fact
Yep.
that there are cards that you want to get when they make new cards that are good for this deck or that deck, or even for a new deck that
Yeah.
hasn't even been thought of up until some of these newer cards.
With that kind
And
of tempo, I always feel like you don't really have time to explore a format because you
right,
get in, you kind of focus in on one deck, and once you get the cards for it, you play a few tournaments with it, and then it's like, I mean, especially if you're like, older guy, father figure, career guy like you and I are, then it's like next thing you know,
hmm
like all of a sudden the tournament rotates and this deck that you've only even probably played a few tournaments is just it's rotated out. And you
right.
you don't even have a chance really to hardly refine the sideboard, much less like feel like you really dominated the format or something.
Well, yeah. Not only that too is just with the ebbs and flows of all right, the format exists, and then something takes over the format a little bit,
Hmm.
and then something tries to come up above that, and then either a ban or a restriction happens or something along those lines, or a
Yeah.
new set comes out and then it adds a new dynamic, and then you're at square one again.
Uh-huh.
And what if you spent $50 on a chase rare?
Yep.
All right, so that's $200 for a playset.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden something happens where either it's banned or something comes out in the next set that basically completely nullifies everything that does.
Yep.
And
Or it just
it makes
rotates
it,
out.
yeah.
Yeah.
Or yeah, true. Even a rotation. And it just makes it so hard. And it was just
Yep.
the turn and the burn. It isn't good. Like, it's good for Wizards of the Coast and for Hasbro, because I mean they're making
Yeah.
all the money off the packs and the product, but it isn't great for the wallet.
Yep.
If I wanted to stop buying Magic cards right now, I could.
Yep.
Well, okay, in theory I could. Well, let's be honest, I couldn't.
It is an addiction.
but I could build a bunch of decks with the collection that I've amassed right now.
Uh-huh.
And I wouldn't need to buy another card in order to be happy playing old school Magic.
Yeah,
Whereas
I really feel like if they just slowed down the rotation and all that they did, like the only changes they made was they like doubled or tripled the amount of time that cards were in a format, and then they also double or triple the development budget. So like there's just a massive variety of playable decks. So when you go to a tournament, like you don't know what like is going to be in the top 8. There's like any one of like 20-30 decks is possible to win with, and there's people that are still actively brewing because the cards are very balanced. I mean, if that's where standard was at, I'd be all in. I'd be pouring my money into Wizards of the Coast. Absolutely. With just those two changes, slowing down the rotation and really balancing the cards. So there's a lot of viable ways to make a good deck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and one thing too is, and there are cycles when it comes to standard as well. Mm-hmm. So it always seems that the most variety and the most fun happens when they go back to Ravnica for one reason or another. The original Ravnica block was extremely fun. It brought back dual lands in the form of shock lands. Yeah. Multiple colors, and that's what a lot of people want to do. They want to play a lot of different colors, a lot of different variety, and things like that. And then return to Ravnica and whatever the newest sets that came out that where they went back to the plane of Ravnica as well. That brings a lot of people in, and it's a lot of excitement because shock lands are back. And people want to be able to cast their spells and be able to have mana bases they don't need to worry about.
Yep.
Which, I mean, that's fun, but again, when they're at a point where it's like, okay, it's fun right now, but then they're going to make something else, and are they going to ban it, or are they going to are they going to make some sort of modification to it?
Yeah.
Like with the companions, they made a modification to the rule of how they worked, because
I really feel like that's just a lack of playtesting on their side.
Right. And I've been saying it for years that their playtesting has been pretty poor.
Yes.
Because of the fact that the playtesters, they get the sets for a couple of years beforehand, and they get to work out the nuances and figure some things out. And very rarely do they come up with even the archetypes that the masses come up with. Mm-hmm. And obviously, a dozen playtesters isn't the collective hive mind of the millions of players that are out there, but still, you would think that with the caliber of people they have on their playtesting team, that they'd be able to come up with something.
Yeah, whatever it is, it's not enough. That's all I know. Because like other sets that seem to have had more influence with like original designers, like when Richard Garfield comes back in or something like that, it just seems like there's a little bit of extra special something to that set, and it just has a bit more playability, variety. It's not just broken or dominated by something. So so you said Drew Epstein got you started, and I know Drew. He's actually a really awesome guy, great member of the old school community. Around what time was that? Around what date?
It was March 23rd, 2019.
Oh, so not very long ago.
Right. 2 years ago. Oh, yeah, almost 2 years ago exactly.
Okay, so you jumped back into this and then just kind of went straight for it and just started making a channel and stuff.
Right, yeah. So when it came to I'll back up a moment. So I played Modern, but one thing when it came to Modern was I stopped getting rid of cards back in Zendikar.
Mm-hmm.
So I had all these cards that were just gathering dust. And then Modern became a format, and all of a sudden my collection exploded in value. So I never got rid of cards, never, I would keep on picking things up.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I was introduced to old school, I had all of this large collection of modern legal cards. So I dumped it. I dumped almost everything so that I could
For
get
someone that doesn't sell, that
cool
must have
cards.
been hard.
Yeah, it was and it wasn't. I mean, there was some bittersweetness to it. Having some of these cards that were valuable at one time and weren't anymore. That is just looking at that as I'm going through. Like, I mean, I remember when Baneslayer Angel was a $50 card,
Mm-hmm.
and when I got rid of them, they were like $6.
Yeah.
So, and then they've just been reprinted again, I guess. So, they're still relatively
Yeah,
inexpensive.
I'm so
But,
bearish on like
yeah,
anything printed after like 8th edition, like holding any level of value. Because
right.
Wizards they just selectively target anything that has any value and use it to
Mhm.
like pimp out another set or something like that. And
Right.
just they're just destroying the value of like everything, which is fine for the game and for players, but for anyone who likes collecting and likes their cards to actually retain or get value, that's terrible. And like a
Right.
lot of players, like they get so stuck on like the prices and like all of that they miss that if you were able to buy new cards and let them appreciate in value, so you could look at a new set and say, oh, the market thinks these are good, but I actually like these cards. So I'm going to buy a few of these and I'm going to keep this as trade stock. And then if you're proven right and time goes on and those cards go up in value, now all of a sudden you can take those and start trading and like knocking all these old cards out of the hands of other players because now you have something
Mhm.
of value. But the way that Wizards is doing things now, like you don't even have that option. Like an old school player or someone like you and me, if someone offers me new cards and says like I would like this beta that or this Arabian Nights that, I'm like, yeah, man, no. I'm not doing it. I'm not trading old cards for new
Oh,
cards.
right. Definitely. I always liked being able to trade standard legal cards for something that was out of print, either something
Yeah.
modern legal or even older. But you have no protections anymore when
Yep.
it comes to a collection, like something I had before I started playing old school Magic.
Yep.
The modern cards, there was no protection in value or anything like that.
Yep.
So while when I got rid of my cards, they might have been at this level had I just stopped playing and sat on it. They would have just gone down in value because of how many cards have been
Yep.
reprinted since then, different versions of the cards or whatever. I mean, a perfect
Yep.
example is Tarmogoyf. When Tarmogoyf was, triple digits for every version of
Deeply
the
into
card.
triple digits.
Yeah, and then now they're extremely inexpensive in regards
Like
to where
50
they were
bucks or
before.
something now or
Yeah,
less.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's that they I mean they have these quote unquote special printings, but those special printings introduce more cards to the card pool, which
Yeah.
is great to get players, and I love having more players in the player
Right.
base.
Right. That's the
But
positive side of it.
yeah, that is a huge positive side, and I
Yep.
love that. But having no protection for your investment.
Yeah, I
So,
remember when I first got that set. I bought this set of beta that was, it was one of each common, one of each uncommon, and like 40 of the rares. And I did
wow.
this like right before like a big spike in like I think this was like late 2015 or 2016, somewhere right about there. Great purchase. But anyways, there was these 5 circle of protections in there, and they were all signed by the original artists. And at
Mm-hmm.
the time, like they were only worth like between like I don't know $5 to $15, something like that. And I now had all these beta cards, and I went to this like event. It was a pre-release event, and this guy there, this was in Houston, Texas. He was really excited about these cards, and I loved that he was excited about it, and I kind of wanted to encourage him on. And so we did a trade, and I traded him those 5 circle of protections that were signed by original artists. and we traded equal value for value, so there was no complaint or anything. But like,
Hmm.
you know, the cards that I got from him, like I went back and I kind of looked the other day because just I was curious, and like, you know, they all are just done. They're all like 10 cents on the dollar, you know,
Yeah.
compared to what their value was then. And everything I gave him at that point was a signed beta common, you know, so those are all just, you know, 10x the value of like what he got from me. So it's
Right.
like, you know, like I'm happy for the guy who got to have that kind of change, but it's like that's the kind of memory that I get when I look back and think like, you know, trading older cards for newer cards, like that's what happens. And it's just like it's just such a bad deal. So, I'd
Definitely.
like to hear a lot about you know, like what your adventure starting off a channel, because most people don't launch into old school and be like, I'm going to be a Twitch streamer and a YouTuber and
Right.
just like, I mean, you just kind of went right for it and jumped in.
Kinda, yeah. So, I mean, I did some webcam games and such with, I joined a Neos Monthly a while back, and
Mm,
I played in a few derbies, Winter Derby, Summer Derby
yeah.
series, and then COVID hit. So I had wanted to do some more online leagues and get some more playing in
Mm-hmm.
right before COVID. So I had purchased the two webcams. So then COVID hit, and that was basically the only way that you were going to be able to play.
Yeah.
So right around this time last year, I lost my job and decided it's like, well, I'm going to try to fill my time with magic if I can, besides doing the normal things that you're supposed to do around the house
Mm-hmm.
and whatnot. So uh, I started playing some webcam games, and
Mm.
the Northern Paladins.
Great group.
They have a monthly league as well
Yep.
that isn't quite as big as
The
the
Derby.
Neos League, the New England Old School League,
Mm-hmm.
but that's what I started with.
But the Paladins are
And then,
growing right now, though.
right, Paladins is growing quite a
Yeah.
bit. But then I saw their post about they were canceling their normal Tuesday night get-togethers because of COVID, and they were going to move to online.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, so um, this was in April of 2020.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided to might as well. I talked with a couple of these guys in webcam games beforehand,
Mm-hmm.
so I said, all right, well, I might as well join and get a regular thing going. So I started playing.
Hmm.
And what I was doing at first was sharing my whereby link with friends so that we could have a couple of spectators.
Uh-huh.
And then a friend of mine who streams, his name is Demon Jedi. He streams first person shooters on Twitch, mostly like Call of Duty Black Ops, Apex, things like that. And he said, just you might as well just start streaming. It's like you'll get more people watching. You'll get random people watching instead of just the one or two friends.
Yeah.
Uh, and who knows, you might be able to build a community. And so shout out to Demon Jedi. Thank you very much for that. I appreciate the help, and he's given me some help along the way and some pointers as well.
Mm-hmm.
But that's how it started. April of last year. At the end of April of last year,
Mm-hmm.
I did a stream for 3 people. My
Mm-hmm.
very first stream had 3 people in the stream, and um, earlier today, I streamed a match of 7 Point Singleton, and we had 47 people in the stream.
Very cool format. I'm actually
Mm-hmm.
hoping to start doing that format as well because it looks like a lot of fun. It looks like the kind of thing I would actually really get into. I've
Mm-hmm.
just been too busy to like pick up another thing like lately, but yeah, I'm really looking
Right.
forward to that. So
Yeah,
47
these
people,
games are
that's pretty
fun.
good.
Mhm. Yeah, things are going great. And as of 2021, I decided that I wanted to expand, and so I put it out there that beginning February 1st that I wanted to stream some more.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been getting some additional streams of Alpha 40, and then I joined the 7 Point Singleton League. I've
Mm-hmm.
done some Alpha 60 Singleton
Mm-hmm.
as well. And then most recently, besides my own stuff, I had the Neo's monthly finals on my stream. So, I mean, I'm branching out. It's still a bunch
Yep.
of old school formats. I get to play in a bunch of things, and then I get to do commentary and other things.
Mm-hmm.
And just recently, I was invited to play in a Mirage Block constructed tournament. So I'll be playing that. It takes place over the next month or so with the Sisters of the Flame out of New York City. So I'm pretty excited about that too.
Very cool.
So,
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm glad to see you take
mhm.
it off. I remember when I first caught wind of like your streamer, what you were doing. I was trying to kind of like send people to you because I'm just trying to kind of get the
I appreciate
community
that.
going and like and build up any channel that if I really felt like someone is like a good person with the right attitude and they're making quality content, then I'm like trying to signal boost those people and kind of like,
Hmm.
let others know that they actually exist, right?
Right.
Because I mean, this is for me, this is just a hobby as well. This isn't like a business or something like that. And so I just want to see the community grow and people discover good content creators. And I understand what that struggle is like. There's not a lot of old school Magic players out there. And there's so much competition now these days to have like a channel or a stream or something like that. It's just hard to get people to even like know you exist, right?
Right.
And sometimes like if I even have like somebody who's like way more famous than me, like either on my channel or I'm on theirs, like I'll be reading through the comments and like even though I've been doing this for years, people will be like, who's that guy with like so and so? And it's just like, okay, so I'm clearly not getting across somewhere. So it's like I
Right.
understand like how hard it is to kind of like, get your name out there. So yes,
Oh yeah.
people, you got to go check out Rich's streams. They're definitely good quality.
I appreciate it. Yeah, and that's one of the things too. When I decided to start streaming, is I wanted to make sure that I produce a stream that I would want to watch.
Yes.
One thing that bothers me, if I go into somebody's stream and they're playing Magic, I don't want chat to be filled with what's the game score or what's your record
Yeah.
or silly things or what are life totals. So that's why I wanted to make sure that kind of thing is on the stream. So for example, on Tuesday
Yes.
nights, I'll make sure that my record is displayed, what round it is, and even our game score. And I've even changed it up so that my life total shows up on stream instead of me having to use dice that you have to look at and strain with your
Yep.
eyes to see and whatnot.
Yeah, that's all fantastic
Little
stuff. I'd
things.
love to do the same thing.
Mhm.
It's hard. I definitely couldn't do it while I'm the one playing, but if I'm hosting something and someone else is playing, I could maybe do something like that. At the moment, I just don't have the time because like I'm familiar with the technology. Like when you and I met before, we had a chance to talk about like how that's actually implemented and that. So I get the idea. And so at some
Right.
point, hopefully I'll get the time to actually start making those slide decks and stuff like that.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's a really good feature about your streams, and that's one of the reasons I kept on trying to kind of point people to you and be like, hey, this guy's making really good quality content.
Hmm.
When you look at it, it looks very professional with the life counters and everything.
I try, and I try to make little updates here and there from time to time. Sometimes it's just, something that almost nobody would notice, but I'll notice.
Mm-hmm.
And then other times it's bigger things
Mm-hmm.
as well. And there's more and more to learn about streaming that's out there, and more things that I can improve upon.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've got a laundry list of things that I want to change.
Oh, that means you're
But
passionate about it. That's good.
right, right. I talked about the Alpha 40 and Drew Epstein. He comes over to my house for those Alpha 40
Oh, that's
streams,
cool. I wish I
and
could hang out with Drew too.
yeah, he's 15 minutes away, so
Oh, that's
so
great.
that's great. So he'll come over here, and he's seen the whole setup. He sees what goes on, and there are times for a stream, if it's not my own stream,
Mm-hmm.
like if it's something that I've never streamed before, I'll take an hour or 2 hours, 3 hours or whatnot to set everything up so that the stream looks right when I broadcast it.
Mm-hmm.
And I like being involved in that aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
But the finished product is what everybody sees, and
Yeah.
that finished product is it's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears
Yes.
when it comes to that. And even when I was down in Florida for 2 weeks, I brought all my rig down, everything that I could, and I spent several hours, doing lighting tests and setting things up so that I
Yeah,
could
people
still,
don't realize how much of
yeah,
that you have to do
still
to
put
get
out
to get the
a
lighting
quality
right
film.
and the sound right and everything.
Mhm.
It takes a lot of effort actually.
Right. And then recently I adjusted the height of the table that I sit at,
Mm-hmm.
and that changed the dynamic of everything in the stream. All again, the lighting and the angles and everything, and just one little thing
Yep.
can make it so that it doesn't look good on screen. I have a spot on my playmat now where I can't set cards
Mm-hmm.
because my opponent won't be able to see them, and it'll make it look bad on the stream. I
Yep.
mean, I'm aware of where that area
Yep.
is,
Yep.
and it's not that big of a deal. But that wasn't there before because of the adjustments that I made. Now it's there, and I haven't quite figured out a way to get that blind spot out of there. But I mean,
Yep.
I'll figure that out eventually. It's not like it's a spot on my playmat that I use all the time, but still, it's just little things like that.
Yeah, I've
And
got this spot here decently well set up in terms of like lighting and sound and all that.
mhm,
But when we go out in like the loft area where all the arcades are, like every time before Dan and I film for this channel, I'll have to set up the tripod with the camera, set up the lighting, move the mics over, start adjusting everything. And this is like, I mean, this is oftentimes like on a weeknight, and I'll work until like 8 p.m. So like
mhm,
8:30, 9 o'clock, Dan shows up and I'm fiddling with technology, and then we film until like 1 a.m. and we actually will do like 4 or 5 like videos in like one shot,
mhm.
and we actually even like we'll even change our shirts in between them because otherwise like just the comments will be like, hey, you guys don't wear the same shirt for 5 days in a row. And we figured it was just easier to change the shirts than rather than
Yeah,
like have to
yeah,
constantly explain the same thing. So anyways, like we'll do this whole setup and then I gotta tear it down, and then like the next week I'll set it up and do another 4 videos. And it's
mhm,
like that constant teardown and setup results in bad video quality. And that's
right.
something Dan and I we're hoping to resolve that because he's setting up a new spot at his place. And so I'll have this kind of studio at my place, then he'll have his at his other place. And hopefully we'll get more consistency out of the quality of the video that is going to get set
Mhm.
up.
Yeah, and there's a lot involved, and I've had people ask me for advice as well about them starting up streaming,
Yeah.
or if they were doing some things. And the biggest advice that I can give to people are two things. First of all, act natural,
Mm-hmm.
and second of all, just be prepared. If you like certain things, then be prepared that other people are going to like those things too. And if you don't like certain things, that be prepared that there are other people who don't like those things as well.
Yep.
And uh, not everybody's going to like everything that you put out. So, you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
It's not always about, winning and losing. Obviously, there is a trend where you keep viewers longer if
Yep.
you're winning in an event, but it isn't always about winning and losing. I actually had
Oh,
a
definitely
stream.
not. It's about entertainment and quality. Like,
Yeah.
people, they just want something like worth it. I mean, I really honestly feel like if I just played tier 1 decks and crushed everybody I played with, number one,
Mhm.
people would be a lot less interested in playing against me. But
Mhm.
then, I mean, besides that, I don't know, I don't think, viewers on a channel, they're really good at picking up nuances. Like
Mhm.
there's been so many times where something happens and like in the moment in the back of my mind I'm thinking like, this isn't really going very well. There's this problem or that problem, or somebody said something, oh, I don't know if that's going to go over very well. And I'll be like, that'll be like a little thing running in my head. And then we'll film the video, put it out there, and sure enough, a couple people will be like, hey, there's this one thing that happened. It's like, 12:53 in the video. And it's just like, I'm constantly reminded that they're just watching, and they're like, if something's occurring to me and it's like some kind of weirdness or issue, the internet almost always calls it out.
All right.
Yeah, it's kind
Right.
of funny actually, but
Yeah, and I mean, most of your videos aren't live, so
Correct.
you get to see the repercussions afterwards.
Hmm.
Where since my videos are live, there'll be times in real time where there'll be a discussion as to what's going on
Hmm.
or whatnot. Another thing is that a funny thing is that I use this orange six-sided die to roll even or odd at the beginning of every match,
Hmm.
and one of my regular viewers and somebody I've played against a few times, he said that my die comes up even more often than it comes up odd.
Hmm.
So that all of my opponents,
He actually took the time to calculate that.
yeah, if I'm rolling this orange die, chances are it's going to come up even more than it's going to come off odd. It's actually more than 50-50. So when I offer you to choose even or odd, choose even.
Uh-huh.
But it's just one of those things.
Wow.
It's funny, one of those little things that you can pick up on.
Hmm.
But yeah, you can pick up in real time. People will comment about a play. They'll comment about a line of plays. They'll comment about mistakes
Hmm.
and things like that. Um, and there are times where you have to explain as well to the viewers that things don't always work the way that I want them to. They don't
Yep.
always work the way that people think they do.
Hmm.
Um, I was a magic judge for 17 years. So when it comes to the rules, I know a
Oh, that's
lot
good.
about things,
That's
but I
good.
do still make a lot of mistakes.
Well, it's a
And
complicated game, and when you're in the middle of
right.
playing, it's easy to miss something.
Um, And when it comes to old school, well, okay, when it comes to judging, the first thing that you're always taught when it comes to answering a rules question is RTFC. Read the freaking card, and you need to know what the card does before you make any kind of determination.
Well, that's funny
Well,
with old school because some cards, like what they
you
say
can't.
on them, is completely wrong.
Right, you can't do that in old
Yeah.
school. So like I have it set up now in the chat on my stream that you can type in exclamation point card and then the card name. It'll bring
Hmm.
up the most recent Oracle text for that card.
Yep.
Um, I have a graphic that will come up where I can spin the card onto the screen and then spin it off the screen,
Yep.
but it's just going to be the old school version of the card. So
Yeah. Some
if
of the worst ones I've seen is like
yeah,
Underworld Dreams, Sylvan Library, Howling Mine.
there's a,
So a lot of those effects like mixed together, especially with the
yeah,
Sylvan. It just gets
there are a
confusing.
lot of them, and
Yeah.
something like Sylvan Library and Mana Vault, they have multiple printings that say different
The
things.
beginning of
So
upkeep, during your
if
upkeep.
right,
Yeah.
if you have only known one version of the card, then you might think that it works one way where it doesn't.
Yeah.
Mana Vault, perfect example. It's a triggered ability at the beginning of your upkeep to untap it. You have
Yep.
one shot and one shot only to untap it for
Yep.
4. If you have the 5th edition version of it, I believe it is, it looks like it's an activated ability.
Hmm.
And then,
I
speaking
think
of Mana
the
Vault,
beta
you don't
version
take
just says
damage on Mana
during your
Vault till your
upkeep or
draw step.
something.
I'm sorry?
I think the beta version just says during your upkeep.
Yeah, something. Like there used to be like beginning of your upkeep, during your upkeep, end of your upkeep, and things like that.
Yeah.
So with Mana Vault in particular, they moved it so you don't take the damage until your draw step. So
Hmm.
and then technically, the very first thing you do in your draw step is draw your card. So you wouldn't take the damage until you saw what card that was. So
Yep.
if you were about to die from your Mana Vault damage, you could see what card you drew, and you can, respond with maybe Swords of Plowshares to gain life, or a Bolt,
Healing
or a
salve,
Psyblast
something.
to possibly win the
Yeah.
game,
Yep.
something along those lines. And I mean, I'll get some things wrong too.
Yeah.
Uh, I didn't realize for quite some time that both Black Vice and Ivory Tower are checking every single upkeep no matter what.
Hmm.
It's a variable where it's dependent on the cards. Where I always thought that it was what's called an intervening if clause, where it wouldn't trigger unless the condition was met.
Hmm.
You know, and it
Yeah,
wasn't
it
until
triggers. It just
recently.
doesn't give life or take life unless
Right,
the
right.
trigger is satisfied.
Which makes sense.
Yeah.
Which makes sense.
Yep.
But something like land tax has that intervening if clause, so that at the beginning of your upkeep, if that clause isn't met, the trigger never goes on the stack. So something like land tax, if you have 2 lands and they have 2 lands, you can't, activate your strip mine to strip mine your own strip mine.
Correct.
Leaving you with 1 land and then activate the land tax. It just
and you can't play abilities on the untap step. So if you don't do it at their end step, you lose the chance.
Right.
Yep.
And, there are a lot of people who play different old school formats where, in Alpha 40, you play things during the untap step. And both players draw at the beginning of their first turn. So even if you're on the play.
Yeah.
So I can understand that people will get, some rules confused from format to format.
Yeah.
And a lot of old school is played by players who were never competitive players. They were always what's called
kitchen
like
table, casual.
Casual Magic players. So they don't always know what the cards do, or they might know kind of what some of the cards do, but not the nuances of the cards.
I'd say the majority of old schoolers fall into that category in my experience. There's very few of them that are actually like really on top of all those rules. And that includes people that have actively done it for 20 years.
Right. And even me, I might know a lot about the rules, but I don't know everything.
Yeah.
And, knowledge of the rules is gonna give you a leg up on some people, but
sure.
It doesn't mean that you're gonna win every single match because of it, or anything like that. You can still win some games because of it. I had a fun little play where I got to cast Sleight of Mind on my opponent's terror. As he was going to terror my Serendipity to change the non-black clause to non-blue. So now the terror can only target non-blue creatures, and it was targeting Serendipity. So guess what? Not a legal target anymore. So the rules say that it's countered on resolution. A lot of times.
So it had to be a legal target when he announced it, but it also had to be a legal target upon resolution.
Right. It's the same as like giving something protection. But it was just a tricky way of doing things.
Interesting. So this has been a pretty good chance to look back and see kind of what got you started, how long you've been doing old school, what jumped you into the streams and the way you go about it and stuff like that. So this is probably, at least for this first video, this is probably a pretty good stopping point. And I'm so glad that I finally had a chance to reach out to you and do this interview. And do you have anything last things to say before we close up this video?
Just real quick. I'm from Syracuse, New York, and there are several people who don't know that Syracuse was a mecca for Magic back in the 90s.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I was able to play Magic with some people who were pretty good and were much better than I was. One of those people was Brian Manolakis. Many people know he has his podcast, All Things Considered.
Yep.
So I was able to reunite with Brian, which is pretty cool. And then
he's a good player too.
Voted my stream as the best new stream for 2020, which was pretty awesome. So shout out to Brian and All Things Considered for that. I really appreciate that recognition because I can get told over and over again that people like the stream and they appreciate what I'm doing. And in my heart of hearts, I don't think I'm doing enough. I want to do more. So.
Well, that's exactly this very thing that makes your stream so good quality. And that's exactly what made me want to signal boost it as well. So I'm right there with Brian. I think he's exactly right. And that's why I wanted to bring you on and let the world see it. So you guys, please go check out his YouTube videos. Check out his Twitch stream. I guarantee it's worth it. It's good quality stuff, guys. So thanks a lot, Rich, for tuning in here.
All right. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Okay. Bye, everybody.